So discussing this question of the high priestly prayer, which is almost universally misunderstood within the ecumenical movement and among most, if not all, Western Christians and apparently Eastern non-Orthodox Christians. So we have the prayer here, and let's just go through and read what Father John has to say here. Father, he's quoting the scriptures, John 17:24, relevant. Father, I desire that they also, whom thou hast, I'm going to use the King James, which is what I know, thou hast given me, may be with me where I am, that they may behold my glory, which thou hast given me, for thou hast loved me before the foundation of the world. Where I am, as he said previously, I go to prepare a place for you. This place, Father John says, is the glory of God. So the glory that I have with them, have given the glory that I have given them. So the glory that I have given them, the glory that they have already received, refers to something different. Afterwards, he speaks about the place. Where I shall be, they too will be. What does this mean? That they may behold my glory, which you have given me. Thou hast given me, for thou hast loved me before the foundation of the world. The apostles received glory in the past. They will receive the glory in the future. They have received glory, but they will see glory. In other words, they reach illumination, and they will progress to glorification. Now, this is a larger question, a larger subject we're not going to unpack here, the whole question of stages of illumination, purification, illumination, glorification. But the point here is that this glory has to do with the spiritual initiation and ultimately theosis. And so therefore unity outside of this context is not what's meant by the Lord, right? The presuppositions here are such that applying them to those who are outside the experience and the confession of faith, which is a presupposition for the experience, is inapplicable. It's not possible. But we're going to unpack that again and again here. So don't worry if you didn't get that. Christ prays for this for the future. Now, all our own people and the Protestants believe that he is praying for the union of the churches. When he means all our own people, he means the ecumenists among the Orthodox who are infected by the various ecumenist philosophies and theories, especially Vatican II's ecclesiology. It has nothing to do with that, he says. He is praying for glorification. It is a glorification prayer, all right? So totally misreading it within contemporary ecumenism. That they may be one as we are one, 17:11. As we have one glory, they too will be united among themselves as they have the same glory. The glory, of course, is the divine energies, the glory of God. So all together we become one with each other and one with God, because all of us, we and the Holy Trinity, have the same glory. This means unity in the glory of God. All right, so if you didn't follow that, which is a little more obscure, pay attention to the following, which is very instructive. He goes on in a different book, a different place, to talk about this as well. In this passage, of course, the same passage we're talking about, from St. John, Christ is speaking about something else. In other words, the fathers clearly teach that in this passage, Christ is referring to two states. In one section, he refers to illumination, while in another, he refers to theosis. When Christ says that all may be one, to whom is he referring? Naturally, he is speaking about the apostles. All right, so the presupposition is he's talking about his disciples who are faithful and the disciples of the disciples, right? The successors of the disciples. This is relevant, therefore, to our discussion of apostolic succession, obviously. He asked the Father that the apostles become one as we are one. Note that Christ does not use the masculine form of the word one, is, but the neuter form, en. So, how are the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit one, en, in the sense of the neuter, right? The answer is that they are united as one by glory, the energies, the divine energies, and by essence, but not in their persons or hypostases. They are not united through their persons, because the Fathers teach that with respect to each other, the persons in the Holy Trinity are akinonita. In other words, there is no communion. There's no communication there. They cannot be merged or reduced to a common entity or person. That's a better way to put it. So Father John puts it. They're not merged. They're not reduced to a common entity or person. That's obvious, right? Three persons, not one. What is common in the Holy Trinity is the essence and the natural energy of the essence or glory. All right. So when we're talking about glory, we're talking about the energies of God, the divine energies, the operations of God. Different words in English that we can unpack. How then can we become one, and as the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit are one? What is this oneness? What kind of oneness can we and the Holy Trinity share? Like, this is very important, right? What is this oneness? It can't be a heretical kind of oneness. It can't be something that makes us God by essence, obviously, right? So what is this? What is this common trait? The answer is that we can become one in glory. Just what St. Athanasius says, exactly what you all know. God became man, that man might become God's by grace. In other words, that theosis, that whole teaching, which is essential, which does not exist for the, pieces exist, but as an experience and as a complete teaching, does not exist outside of the Orthodox Church. As the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit are one in glory, because they have glory in common, so we will likewise become one when we all participate in the glory of God. So the oneness that he's talking about in the high priestly prayer is not some external, political, historical oneness in ideas, oneness in common, even confession. It's a oneness in experience of glory, unity in the glory in the divine energies. We will become one when all of us, or at least those of us who are accounted worthy, because people are free, even after being given everything, they can walk away, as Judas did, become partakers of the grace of the Holy Spirit and behold the uncreated light. When someone is glorified, he becomes a communicant of the uncreated glory of the Holy Trinity. Then he is united. With both the Holy Trinity and his fellow believers. That's the unity in which we have both vertical and horizontal, God and man, the true unity within the church, and only in the church in the mysteries. That happens when they are communicants of the uncreated glory. But when you teach, as is taught within Catholicism, that there is such a thing as created grace, then you have yet to experience the uncreated energies of God. This is the reality. You confess with your teaching that you do not understand by experience what the uncreated divine energies mean. You're not connected to the teachers of these great truths like St. Gregory of Palamas and all the rest. Then he's united again with both the Holy Trinity and the fellow believer, who is also united with the glory of God at that particular moment. And finally, from Father John, we're going to read this a bit, and then we're going to jump into the question of apostolic succession per se and Second Vatican Council. And let me just bring this up here so we're better. According to the Fathers of the Church, the discourse and prayer of Christ recorded in John 13:31 to 17:26, which includes our text here, including the promise that when the Spirit of truth comes, he will guide you to all the truth. This is very important for us. Like, he promised the church that he will guide us in all the truth. Sam and others were implying that even though there's schisms, anathemas, councils that condemn, heresy that's taught, all of the quote-unquote apostolic churches are being guided in all the truth. Now, this was fulfilled when? At Pentecost, which became the continuous experience of those who since have joined the communion of the glorified. So Pentecost was not an historic event only. It continues constantly, continuously in the church and in the Eucharist and the successors of the apostles in the Eucharistic assembly with all the faithful. That's the place where Pentecost is continually happening. This does not mean that the prophets had not been led to the truth, nor that the apostles had not been led to the truth, some by illumination, others by glorification, but that the apostles were about to be led to all the truth in the Pentecostal revelation. In no way did this mean that a church would be led in stages to either a fuller understanding of all the truth, development of doctrine, which is a teaching in Catholicism today, which justifies many of the changes over the last millennium. It does not mean that, of course, or to the restoration or creation of unity among disunited churches. All right, so this is clearly not what's going on in the high priestly prayer. We're not talking about a creation or restoration of unity among disunited churches. That's not what we're talking about. Christ's discourse about and prayer for unity is for the unity of the apostles and the faithful in the experience of glorification. Vision of the uncreated glory of the Holy Trinity in the human nature of Christ, bestowed in its fullness for now in the Pentecostal experience. Now, some might say, well, that's what's happening in all the apostolic churches. If that's what's happening in all the quote-unquote apostolic churches, then the Holy Spirit is contradicting itself, because the Holy Spirit is the same Spirit that in Ephesus anathematized those who refused to accept the teaching, including Nestorius, and all those who refused to listen to the church. It's not just the question of do they get the teaching, but are they listening to the church? Because if you have the Spirit of God guiding you, you will humble yourself and listen to the Spirit of God, which is being spoken through the Holy Ecumenical Council. So if we say, in spite of that God-illumined, God-guided, Holy Spirit-inspired decision of the Ecumenical Councils with regard to the Monophysites, with regard to the Nestorians, with regard to the Eighth Ecumenical Council and Catholicism, in other words, the future departure of the Pope from the teaching which created Catholicism, and all the various departures after or in spite of or in reaction to the Spirit of God speaking in the ecumenical councils, if we're saying that in spite of all these God-inspired teachings, we have a oneness in the faith, a Catholicity of the church and faith, we have apostolic teaching, well, then we have total chaos. And we have inconsistency with what we see in the Acts of the Apostles. We have inconsistency with what we see throughout church history. It's impossible to hold both at the same time. And yet we hear again and again that that's exactly what they're telling us, that they're both existing simultaneously. And now this could be applied from the Roman Catholic perspective. Well, in pre-Vatican II, that's more or less what most understood the Catholic position to be, was that no, it's not consistent to teach that those who are in schism or in heresy nonetheless are apostolic churches. But that's all been changed, or at least refined and systematically taught within Vatican II, and we'll talk about that.